Well, Uncle Dan.
What?
From time to time, I like to think of the many, many, many contributions we not only Utahns have made to the nation and the world, but specifically Mormons.
Right.
The many, many times that Mormons have done something of great note.
Yeah.
For and to this country.
You know what? I like to think about what they're gonna do. What's
right.
gonna happen?
Right.
You know, there's prophecy out there in the world.
Yeah.
And the Mormons are real good at it.
And there's a particular one that took on, again, every time a Mormon gets elected.
Uncle Doug, could you stop interrupting my conversation?
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Mark?
Please. Yeah.
We were just talking about prophecy. Where did you even come from?
Why are you chiming in right now?
I'll just stand over here in the corner.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on with what you were saying, Uncle Doug.
Well, every time a Mormon gets elected, this particular prophecy gets its wings, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's been a change in the air. There's been a changing of the guard in Washington.
There's a kind of hush all over the world
tonight.
The Democrats rule the roost, and Nancy Pelosi has taken the speaker's gavel.
Yes.
Which had been used for the past 2 years by Trump to slam Paul Ryan's balls. Here in Utah,
my God, I would pay money
to watch that.
Oh, if I could smash his balls with the speaker's... I'm sorry. It's just it's a very, very boutique kink item.
It's a very specific fantasy.
Yeah.
Here in Utah, we have bid a fond farewell to one Orrin Grant Hatch.
Oh, my God.
Only to usher in the fresh new face of one Willard Mitt Romney. And while you might rightly ask, what pretends the replacing of one carpetbagging 84-year-old devout Mormon with another carpetbagging 71-year-old devout Mormon? Well, at the very least, the icy scythe of death will probably prevent Mitt Romney from serving as long as Orrin Hatch did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be hard for him to serve 42 fucking years.
Orrin Hatch is the longest-serving Republican senator in American history, 5th overall. First getting elected in 1976 on a platform, if you can believe it.
To run on 2 terms.
Term limits.
Yeah, term limits.
Yep.
Well, I got to say, it was probably, I didn't agree with his politics, but it was probably good to have someone in the Senate that was present at the original Constitutional Convention.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What did Madison smell like?
He was there at the signing of the Magna Carta. This vile...
He was there to ask Strom Thurmond what the flood was like.
This vile Skeksis has been in the Senate for my entire life, and in that time, he has honored Utah by, among many other things, championing the constitutional amendments banning abortion and flag burning, helping to defeat the Labor Reform Act and the Equal Rights Amendment. He helped write the USA Patriot Act, helped block Merrick Garland from the Supreme Court, called Trump the greatest president in his lifetime, and famously went to remove his eyeglasses, but upon realizing they weren't there, continued with the gesture, hoping that no one would notice, but we did.
And remember, one of his biggest hobby horses was trying to get the Constitution amended.
Yeah.
So that a bodybuilder he had a very peculiar
there was something there,
obsession with could be president.
Yeah.
And one Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
That's true. To be fair, he did participate in some actually good pieces of legislation. But to be fair, many of those pieces of legislation, such as CHIP, the DREAM Act, and money for AIDS research and treatment, he now opposes. So
right.
So goodbye to you grumpy Gramp from Pittsburgh. Go right ahead and fuck yourself.
Yes.
Now to the youthful newcomer that is taking his seat, Mitt Romney.
Mittens.
I don't have to spend any time telling anybody listening what a milquetoast weather vane Monsieur Romney is.
Yeah.
Lest anyone is tempted to look upon this mayonnaise android with anything but disdain, please go back and watch his 47% speech to a closed-door room of donors.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're feeling blue, you can always watch Barack Obama mop the floor with him at the 2012 town hall debate.
Yeah.
Please proceed, Governor, is a term I use almost daily. Romney famously took the fight right at Donald Trump in 2016 in a speech in which he called Trump dishonest, intemperate, fraudulent, ignorant, reckless, vulgar, racist, misogynistic, a con man, a fake, and dangerous to the future of this country. He then listed in detail all of Trump's lies, failures, scams, and scandals. It was a clear-eyed and brave indictment of the soon-to-be president that he immediately discarded when Trump dangled Secretary of State in front of him.
It was amazing, that flop.
Flop.
That was like... Yeah, you could hear it.
Yeah,
it happened, like the moment it happened, we all went, what was that?
There is no actual physical steel weather vane that has bearings that could take that fucking reversal. Like, it would just snap in half.
Yeah.
The sound of that flop was the sound of a piece of white bread with mayonnaise on it landing face down.
Where it will remain forever.
Yeah. And that moment was memorialized by the photo of Trump and Romney at dinner, where Trump looks like Jack Nicholson's Joker, and Romney looks like he just did a fat rail of bad crank for the first time. And now Romney is the new senator from the pretty great state of Utah. And once again, he wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post the other day, taking it to Trump. Should we take bets on how long that'll last?
Well, he already immediately after that supported all of Trump's main platform items.
In the op-ed, he said, "I don't like the approach, but I like everything you're doing."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The wall, thumbs up.
Moral courage. This ain't.
No.
And even odds that Romney's going to give a convention speech for Trump in 2020. So.
I think Trump is jealous that he would. I mean, Romney. I think he'd love to pay off a porn star if he knew what that was.
Now, let me once again just reiterate that the entire Utah congressional delegation is Mormon.
Yes.
As are 4 other serving congressmen in the 116th Congress. However, one piece of good news, there are only 10 Mormons in Congress, which is the least there's been in the last 6 Congresses. So
There's still 10.
It's pretty baffling the overrepresentation that Mormonism has had in the Congress for the last several decades.
now,
I'm again it.
there's a reason for that. And I would ask you two, uncles, if in a single word you could sum up the entirety of the Mormon congressional delegation, and let me take a few words off the table. Let's not say white or male or Republican. It's a little too on the nose.
Okay, because
So-
one isn't.
Which?
Republican.
What's his name?
They've
One
had-
is not a Republican.
they've had some Democrats.
Yep, McAdams.
Ben McAdams.
Harry Reid
Harry Reid.
famously was a prominent Democrat. But
Yeah.
let's take those words off the table. In a single word, how would you, if you could choose a single word that would perfectly describe the Mormon congressional delegation, what would it be?
What is the active verb for capitulate? Capitulative? Is that?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
What'd you say, Dan?
Bitch ass.
That's 2 words.
It's a hyphenated.
word.
I'm giving it a hyphenated.
I'll allow it.
How about sanctimonious?
Oh, good one.
Now, there's many
Yes.
politicians who are sanctimonious, and there are many politicians who kind of fit that mold. But Mormons, for a very specific reason, kind of embody that word more than a lot of others do. And there's a reason for that. It is a specific prophecy that Mormons talk about amongst themselves a lot.
Yes.
And they don't talk about that much in the open, like many things in Mormonism.
So many things in Mormonism.
Yeah.
It's like an iceberg. There's much more below the surface that you're not allowed to talk about.
And it's all white.
And it's wearing garments.
And this is the prophecy and belief that someday in our future, the Constitution and indeed the Republic will be hanging by a thread. And in that day, it will be the Mormons who save the Constitution and the Republic.
Well, then this is their moment.
Right. Well, and that hanging by a thread is their specific wording that come. I mean, you hear that phrase
Yes.
so goddamn much in Mormonism.
Yeah, and this
It's going to be hanging. What's funny is that most Mormons right now, at this moment in history, and this hasn't always been the case, but most Mormons in this moment in history are very, very conservative.
Yes.
Very much Republican Party, very, very conservative.
Yeah.
So while this is probably the moment in American history when our Constitution has been closest to full crisis,
Right.
they don't see it that way.
They're on the wrong side of they're on the downside of that thread.
Right, yes, exactly.
On the upside.
Yeah.
So this belief is popularly known as the White Horse Prophecy, and we'll talk about why that is. It is certainly not called the White Horse Prophecy among Mormons. This is a term that is kind of derogatory, and you will not find it on any Mormon literature, which I looked for. And this is where I did the lion's share of the research for this was actually on LDS.org, which is the official
Their
Mormon.
official site.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Also funny because they're not using LDS anymore.
That's right.
We're not,
What are they gonna
we're
do
not
about
supposed to
that?
say LDS
I know.
anymore.
Did you know there's a merch section of that website which is all whitewash and wallpaper? It's just, that's weird. It's all it is.
This belief goes way back to the dawn of the Mormon Church in the early 1830s. In December of 1833, Joseph Smith recorded a revelation which would become Section 101 of the Doctrine and Covenants, which for the enviably ignorant is the Mormon version of the Hadith. In this section...
I'm sure that clears it up for a lot of people.
If that didn't make sense, think the Tanakh. You're fine.
Exactly
There you
right.
go.
Obviously.
Clear as mud.
The appendices in the Bhagavad Gita. It's just, it's that simple. Yeah.
Or the Dune Encyclopedia. There you go. In this section, Joseph covers various
Fucking
topics,
nerd.
mostly pertaining to the growing animosity towards the saints in Missouri. However, in verses 77 and 80, he says the following, quote, according to the laws and constitution of the people, which I have suffered to be established and should be maintained for the rights and protection of all flesh, according to just and holy principles, and for this purpose have I established the constitution of this land by the hands of wise men whom I raised up unto this very purpose, and redeemed the land by the shedding of blood. Again, this is written in the 1830s and 40s, well before the real shedding of blood got going, but whatever.
And definitely not written in the 1600s, though the wording would make you believe.
Precisely. So to this day, it is a doctrinal belief of Mormons that the Mormon God inspired the writers of the Constitution to establish a nation into which he could bring about the restoration of Jesus Christ's original church in the form of the Mormon religion.
Go America!
That's right. America happened so that there could be a Mormon church. If you don't believe me, ask a Mormon and enjoy the stammering gymnastics routine that is sure to follow.
Yes.
So
well, I mean, that's not all that it was, but I mean,
did you know about milk before meat? That's a thing, right? It's also funny that Joseph Smith was going through that period of like God inspired America, et cetera, et cetera. Right as they were becoming a radically anti-American,
precisely,
essentially terrorist group.
Leaving aside, of course, that after Joseph's death in 1844, the Mormon Church fled the United States,
right? Yes,
abandoning the Republican Constitution they were destined to save in order to set up an anti-democratic communist theology in sovereign Mexico. So
yes, and hoped very much during the Civil War that both sides would kill each other off.
Yep.
And that the Mormons would then move back into God's anointed land and the Garden of Eden around Missouri and restore
and
as a fully Mormon theocracy.
And rule as the kings that they were.
Right. Yeah. So, but that's not all. It's not, in starting in July of 1840, Joseph took things one step further, not content to claim Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson's work as his own. Joseph felt the need to place the very future of the Republic in Mormon hands. In a sermon in Nauvoo, Illinois...
Heaven forfend.
Yeah. Joseph expounded on the Mormon Church's pivotal role in past and future American history, saying, quote, and this is from Mormon or LDS.org, among other sources, but they believe this.
Yeah.
Even this nation will be on the verge of crumbling to pieces and tumbling to the ground, and when the Constitution is on the brink of ruin, this people will be the staff upon which the nation shall lean, and they shall bear the Constitution away from the very verge of destruction. Joseph would go on to repeat this claim on several occasions before his death, refining it to the most familiar version, quote, the time will come when the Constitution and government will hang by a brittle thread and will be ready to fall into other hands, and this people, the Latter-day Saints, will step forth and save it. So, now.
So, the USA was invented so the Mormons would come, and then it will need them to save it.
Yes. Now, this is an extremely deep belief by Mormons.
Yes.
Now, also, was this not at the time Joseph Smith himself was deciding to run for president?
Yeah. Yep.
So, who? I mean, it's impossible to know.
Right.
But who do we think he had in mind as the savior?
As the savior of...
what specific Mormon?
I don't know. It's really hard to tell.
It seems like...
Certainly not Joseph himself. He was such a modest guy.
Oh, no. That would be very vain, and that would not be him at all.
Now, there's a version of this prophecy that was recounted by a guy named Edwin Rushton in the 1900s.
No middle initial?
No.
That's weird.
Let's give him one.
It's weird.
X.
Sure.
And he claims that when Joseph Smith made this prophecy, he talked about a particular person, a savior, riding a pale or white horse that would be the one that would save America and the Constitution. And that's why it's popularly known as the White Horse Prophecy, although that's not what Mormons refer to it as. So unsurprisingly, like all nebulous doomsday prophecies, every subsequent generation has believed that this existential crisis would happen during their watch.
Yeah.
And so Mormons have sought public office and continue to do so, firm in their conviction that their elections have been preordained by the creator of the universe with the express purpose of saving the Constitution from ruin.
Right.
But what we now know is that all of those elected officials were just leading up to Mittens.
To Willard Mitt Romney. So, I mean, does that mean that Orrin Hatch believed that among his supporters was God himself? Yep.
Yes,
it does.
100%.
Does that mean Mitt Romney and Jeff Flake and Jason Chaffetz believe, and every other Mormon who's run in one office basically believe this? Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely think so.
100%.
I absolutely think so.
Yeah, all of them in their heart of hearts and in their elders' quorum meetings on Sundays when there's no non-believers around to hear, they believe this. They all believe they're elected by God.
Which explains why they are so bitter and shitty at kind of towards the ends of their time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they were not, the door to the Oval Office didn't open and light shone out and they stepped inside to save the universe.
The thread never appeared in their time.
Exactly.
The thread held fast.
I mean, you'd think of why Ann Romney took the defeat so hard in 2012 when Willard lost. It's this.
Yeah.
This was God's will.
He was meant to be the white horse, right? And they have plenty of horses.
And plenty of whites.
I'll bet you anything they went out and bought a white horse.
Probably.
But they did. Ann Romney had a dressage horse.
Somewhere there are pictures of Willard on a white horse that they took.
And they were like, no, not yet.
Yeah.
Is he riding Sassy, the horse that what's his bucket?
Roy Moore? Yeah. Whoa! Roy Moore very nearly got himself killed on.
Here's the thing. Okay, it's not going to happen. But if it's very clear that he wrote that Mitt. I don't mean to subvert your track here.
Subvert away.
But if Mitt wrote the recent op-ed against Trump as a sort of as a first volley into running against him in the Republican primary in 2020, which he must have done. There's no other reason for him to have done it.
I'm convinced that's what he's doing. I'm convinced that's what he's doing.
Then, first of all, he's going to have his ass handed to him.
Oh yeah,
by Donald Trump.
Oh yeah,
because he's such a fucking wobbler. Yeah, he's terrible.
Yeah. You can't conceive of a person less equipped to go up against Trump than Mitt Romney.
Right? No. Honestly, seriously, there are 6-year-olds who would do better. But if he made it through and then he won the general election, here's the question: would he ride to his inauguration on the white horse? Because I feel like he would.
But it would be that fancy dressage.
Yes, exactly. He would
ballet.
do a little sidestep dancing.
And then 25th Amendment, you're gone.
Right.
No, the reason, especially in Mitt's case, that this hero, this great Melchizedek priesthood champion of democracy and the Republic, needs to ride on the back of a horse is because it's very hard to walk without a fucking spine.
Right.
So the blob of goo, of goo that goes any way the wind blows, that is Mitt Romney, needs transportation.
Yeah, he's not a weather vane,
podium.
he's sea foam. Yeah, so basically, do you ever wonder why Jason Chaffetz is so repulsive?
Yeah.
Now you know.
He thought it was his. He thought he
thought it
won.
was.
And it was going to be his moment to be this person.
And if you don't believe this, ask a Mormon. This is one of those ones you can ask them about.
Yeah.
And
other ones they will lie about.
Yeah.
They don't think they're lying, but they'll lie about it.
This one, you're going to catch them off guard.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. In fact, if for any fans of crossover fans of Bryce Blankenagle's show Naked Mormonism, there's a quote. It's Benson, isn't it? Ezra Taft Benson.
Yeah.
There's an audio quote.
Former prophet Ezra Taft.
Right.
The Mormon Church will save the Republic.
Yeah. In the opening of Bryce's show, you can hear a Mormon prophet say exactly this.
You know what sucks is the only really good impression I can do is of an old Mormon. That's the only one I can nail.
Which is great. You need to morph it into sort of a Statler and Waldorfian sort of. We'll do a comedy routine where Ezra Benson and
Spencer W. Kimball
go back and forth.
And on a very quick side note, Uncle Mark and I were at the town hall that was famous for making Jason Chaffetz decide to retire from the House.
Oh, were you?
And if you've never yelled at Jason Chaffetz to his face, I highly recommend it. It's so therapeutic.
It is life changing. It was so beautiful.
So there you go.
Good. All right. Well,
giddy up.
This show is hanging by a thread, so let's move on.